Well, it's a process that we've been much anticipating as the Electoral Commission in a few moments from now will be addressing growing calls for the need to expand more centres designated for the ongoing limited registration exercise. The Commission has come under intense criticism over the last few days owing to the chaos and clashes occurring at various registration centres across the country due to congestion and the scramble by political parties to get their followers to register. Well, many of the first-time voters, as we understand, were eager to be registered in a limited voters registration, have had to stay overnight, for instance, at the Okaikwei North District office to avoid long queues in the morning. They hoped the exercise would run smoothly. A little did they actually know that they were putting themselves at risk. 15 persons, as we understand, have been injured. 5 amongst them have been reportedly hospitalized after some masked men stormed the Electoral Commission's registration center at the Okaikwei North constituency. They attacked people who had queued to be registered. Here's a wrap of the events by Prince Owusu Ansa.
So when I was running and they hit the stick, they threw the stick and it hit my legs.
That is Gifty Dogwe. She was brutally attacked by unknown men in the early hours of Sunday morning while waiting for a turn to be registered.
As I tried to wake up again, I couldn't, so I fell again. But that one, I fell on the stone.
Her legs failed her as she ran for her life.
Like, I don't know, and it ended me this way. All my legs is paining me, it's shivering, I can't walk.
According to some eyewitnesses, the unidentified men attacked them and bolted away with more than 11,000 Ghana cedis and mobile phones. Elon Marion Deborah lost $100.
Our phones, our money, a lot of people's money has been stolen. My phone, iPhone, I have $150 at the back in the case. It's stolen. My colleagues' phones and money as well. Everything has been stolen.
There were no security personnel available when these people were attacked. The NDC constituency chairman for Okaikwei North, Gregory Kwashi, says the incident has been reported to the police for investigation.
I personally drove some of them to the Achimota police station. So as we speak, some of them are still there being interrogated by the CID. Other members are also going to lodge official complaints. Some have been given the medical form. So the one at Test 7 has the medical form, another at Achimota Hospital.
Some police officers arrived after the attack. Meanwhile, some first-time voters have expressed concerns about waiting long hours in the queue, while others allege that members are being assisted by some political parties to jump the long queues.
You could see some people are quarreling, some people are taking things not easy here. Everybody is trying to find his way early to go home. That's the problem here.
How them I do for here? Me, I know the bab. Yeah, them do like them be heroes.
They've already been called by civil society organizations and some political parties to decentralize the ongoing voters registration exercise, which is currently limited to the EC's district offices. A report by Prince Owusu Ansa read to you.
Well, we understand that calm has actually been restored now to the Okaikwei North Limited Voters Registration Centre after the reported attack that we brought to you by our colleague Prince Owusu Ansa. But the Electoral Commission has also been defending the reason for which, till date, we have not seen the expansion of some of the registration centres. Here's the Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Sri Bokweku, answering a number of questions even ahead of the press conference.
The Commission has been mandated by the Constitution to perform certain functions, and the Commission has no choice but to obey or to perform such functions. If the Commission does anything contrary to what it has been mandated to do, then that becomes antithesis. And I wouldn't want to know the word that to be used for them, because the main purpose of your being is to do certain things and you decide not to do it. But before I proceed, I want to say that for the media and the CSOs, your attention is register them, register them, register them. That is the focus of the media and the CSO. And probably that is maybe the reason why maybe you are quoting my chair. At that time he was CSO. But when you come into the kitchen, that is where you see that your responsibility changes. the thinking of the commission is that it is to register people and also to protect the sanctity of the register. That is very, very important, which nobody is talking about. You are going to compile voters' register that will be used to determine who leads Ghana in all fronts. What goes into the register should be something that should not be, that can bring about issues. If you remember, in 2016, there were a lot of issues about the sanctity of the register, a lot of demonstration, what have you. The commission insisted that what we have could be used for the election, and it was done.
And that's Sribo Okaikwei answering a few questions. But today, the Electoral Commission, as we understand, will be addressing the press any moment from now. We will be giving you some live pictures from the headquarters of the Electoral Commission as we ready, of course, ourselves to hear from the chairperson of the commission or any other assigned who may be addressing the press briefing. I want to also bring in now Dr. Asa Asante, who is a political scientist at the University of Ghana, joining us via Zoom. Thank you, Doc, for spending some time with us this afternoon. Quite a long day we will have, but break it down for us. The EC justifying why it is reluctant at opening up more registration centers. They believe that sanctity must be of topmost priority. That's the concern of the EC. Does expansion in any way compromise the integrity of the exercise?
Yeah, good afternoon, Blessed. I think that that explanation cannot fly anything. Simply put, we are saying that people have attained the age of voting, and by law, they are required to have their names implanted in the roll of voters in this country. So how do you do this? You cannot say that because you want sanctity, you are going to disenfranchise people. Then it becomes an aberration. And I don't think that that is the way to go. The way to go is that, yes, you are mindful of the fact that the people that you want to put their name into the books, they are qualified by law, and that there is nothing that will undermine the process. But that is not to say that you are putting impediments in their way so as to disenfranchise them. Then that becomes a misnomer, an aberration that creates credibility problems for the commission and for the entire elections that is forthcoming.
But then, the Deputy Commissioner was explaining that, for those of us who are outside, CSO, media, as he explains, we're just hyping the matters very much, sentimental issues, as we would want to put it out there. Long queues, clashes, chaos at the centers, people being attacked. Yes, these are concerns. But from the perspective of the Commission, they have that primary responsibility of weighing all of the options available to it and to decide whether or not, to expand the centers.
So are you saying that when you do it this way and people are disenfranchised, you have achieved your mandate? Is that what you are saying? Let them remember that you are talking about people's rights. The rights are those entitlements that are given by the state that enable individuals to become the best of themselves. The right to express themselves in election. It is a fundamental right, non-negotiable. So you do everything to protect it. The worst that you can do to it is to maintain it at the minimum level. Yes, if you can't do anything about it, you maintain it. But to bring it down, no. So that explanation for me is nothing to write home about. All that they have to do is that make sure that at the end of the day, sanctity is maintained and then people's rights are not shortchanged. Once you are, what about the situation that you're able to maintain sanctity and a lot of people don't get voted or don't get registered? Is that what they want? Then you become an enemy of an open society and you undermine the fortunes of democracy that we are nurturing and guarding jealously. I think that they must think and think again, and then make sure that they do the needful to bring everybody on board. We are not saying that registering people should allow you to open the floodgate to allow people who are not qualified by law to do so. No, it is in tandem with the work that you do, that you make sure that whilst you pursue the cause of justice, or you will respect the rules of the game, you at the same time making sure that everybody who is qualified by law get opportunity to be able to be registered and then exercise his franchise in the future.
Okay. In fact, I must point out that the EC is ready any moment from now. As we speak, the Electoral Commission will be addressing the press. So you see live pictures there from the headquarters of the Electoral Commission. A number of journalists already gathered waiting for the chairperson, Jean Mensa, who will now be addressing the press in a few moments from now. These are live pictures that we're bringing to you, bringing you up to speed as your election headquarters with all of the updates as we have it coming through. But a number of questions for the EC chairperson to address this afternoon, Doc. You agree? In fact, many of us were expecting that the exercise would be peaceful. Yet just, last night, Okaikwei areas were hearing reports of some attacks on some of the individuals there in the queues. What do you feel is accounting for this? Do you feel that the increasing numbers is also compromising security?
So the increasing numbers is a factor, and some people want to also have a field day. And difficult situation like that, you see people, miscreants, who want to take undue advantage of the system and create trouble for society. And that is why we have security. They should, deal with them. I trust our security will deal with them and get them out of the system so that the real problem at hand will be addressed head on. The issue is that the EC should just be sober, reflect on these things, and have a solution to these problems. Because what is the end game? Is it to what? Make sure that people are disenfranchised? I'm not sure that is their thinking, and it can never be. Otherwise, they are not fit to be in the office. And I'm not sure, without any imagination, I can say without fear of contradiction that is not their thinking. But your action is pointing to that. And if it is happening, so then you must what? Do the needful by what? Stay away from that process.
And Doc, the process is about allocation. Probably it's one of the clearest ways of dealing with this. Former President John Dramani Mahama talking about that when he visited some of these centers, asking that more allocation be done. But some say it's late in the day. That could possibly be a setback to the EC, isn't it? The reason for which they are not expanding.
Allocation of what, please?
Resources, perhaps.
Have they complained of resources? I mean, you are only guessing. Let the EC complain, then we'll know their problem. Remember that they are not running a public business, a private business. They are running state business. So the state has assigned you to do a duty, a piece of work. If the state doesn't have resources, which will be enough for you to carry out your mandate, you have every right to voice it out, and it will be provided. Because election is a very critical indices for ensuring what? A successful political society. So we are saying that this is what we have pledged our will and our might to. So we will move resources to the place to make sure that it works. So they can't hide behind lack of resources to create problems. No. And I'm not sure that they are in to create problems, because they are there to solve problems and make life better for everybody so that this democracy will be strengthened.
For those of you who are joining us now on the Joy News channel, live pictures from the EC's headquarters where the chairperson, Jean Mensa, will be addressing the press any moment from now. A number of concerns regarding the limited registration exercise, which we will be bringing up to speed, with in terms of the responses. But first, I want us to also get some updates from the Okaikwei areas where, of course, some attacks occurred last night. Doc, I'll come back to you, and also we'll be monitoring the space there at the Electoral Commission. But let's listen through on this latest coming through from my colleague Samuel Mbura, who was within the registration area around the Okaikwei North Center.
The exercise here at Okaikwei North was marked by violence, leading to about 15 people being attacked, we were told. 5 people got injured as a result. At the moment, no arrests have been made. However, calm has returned. The Deputy General Secretary of the MPP in the Okaikwei North constituency, Isaac Ode, said the exercise has been smooth so far.
Today, everything has been successful. There's no problem. We are complying. The security is at post. And no, nothing, everything's fine. So far, you've not encountered any challenge yet. Everything is working, everything is moving on steadily. And you can see for yourself, nobody is complaining. NEC, they are registering, MPP is registering. and everything's going on successfully.
Some of you had to pass the night here. What was the reason?
Okay, the reason has to do with the fact that people come and queue. So you think that maybe you don't want your people to be in a queue for long, so they come as early as possible and queue and wait for the officials, then they register.
The exercise has also been described as successful by the NDC. Mr. Yado is the deputy organizer of the NDC in the Okaikwei North constituency.
Today the exercise has been smooth. From day one we raised concerns about the process, but from the third day the EC gave us an extra machine, and so far so good. As it stands, everything has been moving successfully. There was one guy being arrested earlier on in the morning because he was trying to do a double registration, but I think he was being sorted out and he was being released to go and was being cautioned also.
Regardless of the longer queue here at Okaikwei North constituency, the new entrants are waiting patiently to register.
The exercise has been okay so far. Nothing, just smooth process. We are just following the line, going through the process. I just want the voter's ID card for identification purposes. That's all.
I'm here to get the voter's ID so that I may be permitted to vote for the upcoming elections.
Oh, I just came here to do my voter's ID because I don't have one, and I think I have to vote, and it's what I have to do because I'm 18.
Adequate security has been provided by the Ghana Police Service, and right behind me they have barricaded the area to prevent intruders from causing chaos at the registration center. At the moment, the exercise has been smooth, and the registrants are expecting that at the end of the day they will have their names captured into the voters register. Reporting from Okaikwei North Registration Center here in Accra, Samuel Mbura.
And we're here still in the studio and monitoring what may happen in the next few minutes, where the Electoral Commission will be addressing the press any moment from now. The chairperson is expected, or any other assigned, expected to touch on matters relating to the EC's limited registration exercise. Dr. Asante is still with us. And Doc, the political parties are still being accused of being part of the challenge that we're finding with the entire registration process, bossing of individuals, creating the political tension as we're seeing. Do you feel that the political parties should also be taking some responsibility for what's happening?
Certainly so, because this phenomenon has been with us time immemorial. That political parties will come and pretend to be, going according to the rules of the game, but they are one of the actors that undermine the very process by buzzing people. They're taking people to go and register people who are minors and the rest of them. It is something that all of us as a society must rise up and then criticize them so that they shy away from this ungodly act. It is not fine, because in one breath they will preach virtues, in another they will practice vice. They will condemn the system, that the system has a lot of ghost names, a lot of minors and others, but they themselves are part to be blamed for this type of exercise. So in this regard, I believe that Ghanaians must wake up to this challenge and then address them on, and that it can only be done when we are vigilant at the place. That when you see something, report something to the securities apparatus, that this person, you believe strongly that he is not required by law to do this and that on that, and that if it turns out to be true, the consequences there for everybody to see. This practice should cease, because you see, election should be foolproof, and the preparatory process is as important as the last end of it, so that you want to get everything right so as not to raise doubt in the minds of anybody, because at the end of the day, whoever goes through election when there is uneven playing field will complain, and that will compromise the election, and the person, if you don't take care, will not accept the verdict at the end of the day. But the beautiful end of every electoral process we expect is that you lose, and you lose gallantly, and you accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game. That's the spirit behind democracy, and this is what we all are praying for. So we are saying that let's get the basis right.
Your expectations, of course, that seat we see in the middle there is supposed to be for the one who will be addressing the press briefing. We're expecting that this should be the chairperson of the commission herself, who's for some days now been accused of, evading the court's service, which later on her lawyers have explained as to now taking over and fully bearing the responsibility of representing her in the courts. What's your expectation from, the chairperson of the commission and also perhaps other officials who may be the ones addressing the press today?
My expectation is that they will look at all these concerns and make sure that they take a decision that will address all this. I am not sure it's in the interest of the EC to jettison all these complaints and then go on according to their own game. No, they should look at the issues and as they come and address it and make sure that at the end of the day, those who qualify by law have their name in the books and those who don't are rejected. Very simple matter. You see, there is a cost associated with this. If you are EC and you do things in such a way that somebody can read meanings into it, telling themselves that yes, you are trying to favor one party against the rest, the party then suffers when people will vent their anger on them and then they will incur the wrath of those people. And that is what we don't want, because then you are necessarily punishing a political party which has done nothing, but by your action, they are extending their anger to that political party and all that. That's unfair. So I believe that all these things will serve as a guide to regulate the conduct of the EC, to do things that we expect of them, and then make sure that this process goes on successfully. Because remember, voter registration is part of the so many indices of free and fair election. When you get it wrong, I'm afraid you have compromised the election, and the results will not be funny.
The argument that if the next registration window is open, that will afford more and more Ghanaians the opportunity to register next year before the general elections. Is that an idea that we should be buying into?
It's not tenable at all. What prevents them from being registered now and let them also take advantage of exercising their franchise in the immediate election, all right, than waiting for next year? Plato told us that we have no control of tomorrow. If we want to do something, let's do it now. Tomorrow doesn't belong to you. So who says that those people who want to vote, all right, next year, if they are prevented to register now, they will be in the country and vote, or they will continue to have that interest to want to exercise that right of theirs? I believe that the time is now. Those who are ready and according to the law, they are qualified. Allow them. Next year will take care of itself.
And of course, next year will be another year where the EC will now be confronted with, an increased number in terms of the registration. If they are not able to capture the estimated 1.3 million people by the end of this year. The CI, which the EC has laid before Parliament, is also coming into sharp focus. The fact that it has as requirements the Ghana card. That's going to be subject to, another political debate altogether. But how do we resolve this problem completely? Because the EC is standing on the leg of the guarantor system, which it argues is not, helping the credibility of the electoral roll.
People have spoken against the route that the EC want to take. I believe that the EC must pull back and look at these things and see which one works. You see, when you look yourself in the mirror, you will not be able to know exactly what is wrong. But let people tell you about what is happening, and then you get the thing right. So the thing is that the EC must be able to allow itself to be, giving information, to be educated, let people express their views and put all together. And then you can reason out of that and you get something that will satisfy at least most of our interests. Look, because at the end of the day, whatever they do will have consequence on the election. And I am sure that if they want, one day they want to look back and say that we put this system in place and that this is a system that has brought us this far. I think that is the mark of every person who occupies a political office, that you want to leave a legacy that will stand the test of time. But you don't want a system that you introduce that, at the end of the day, that system will come under attack and that system will not inure to the interest of everybody. Then that system is not fit for purpose and it will really undermine all the good work that you have done. I believe that the time is now for them to take all these concerns on board and then make sure that let's get people who are qualified by law registered. Because what is in it for EC? The question I want to pose. I'm not sure there is something to benefit out of this if people don't register. You rather want to urge people to register so as to be able to express themselves when election comes.
Dr. Santi, this is just a limited registration exercise. Why the euphoria?
Yes, because it is my right. And if I want to exercise it, why are you also preventing me from doing so? Then it becomes what? Another question that needs to be addressed. Yes, the excitement is that everybody, when you go through socialization, you realize that children, as they move from childhood to adulthood, become so excited. They want to be called men and women, people who have reached the age of voting. It is another level of maturity that, yes, I voted, I decided for who will run the affairs of this country. I was part of that decision. This is not a funny, program. It is a very important one that people want to, be part of that important decision. And if they are qualified by law, why do you want to prevent them from exercising that right?
Dr. Sasanti, just stay with us. We're still monitoring developments at the EC headquarters and very shortly would have the chairperson of the commission or any other assigned from the commission address us. But I mean, looking at the setup there at the headquarters, I'm presuming that this will be the chairperson's address, also flanked by two more chairs. I'm suspecting will be that of Dr. Bosman Asare and Samotite, who's also a commissioner there at the EC. We never know who may be the one addressing that press briefing. So we'll still watch the space. Dr. Santi, just stay with us. I need to update you on some of the happenings around the country before we get back to the EC headquarters, because the bondholders forum actually have rejected another attempt by government to rope them into the domestic debt exchange program. The government has announced that it is reopening the domestic debt exchange program, particularly for investors who did not sign up for the February exercise. The Ministry of Finance, in a statement, noted that the opportunity will also cover holders of the ESLA PLC as well as the Dachi bonds. But member of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum are actually objecting to that. James Aveji has been monitoring the exercise and comes through with this report.
Between February and June 2023, members of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum picketed the Finance Ministry demanding a total exemption from the government domestic debt exchange program. After a back and forth between the two parties, an agreement was reached. That agreement granted total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program. That agreement granted a total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program to the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. But in a statement dated 13 September 2023, the bondholders say government is attempting to rope them into another debt exchange program. They have been classified under Category B of that statement. They are expected to submit their bonds to the Finance Ministry for a new term. But at the press conference on Monday morning, members of the pensioner bondholders say they cannot be included in the new domestic debt exchange program. Dr. Edwana Nientri is convener of the group.
We have noted that Category B holders, consisting of eligible holders that are natural persons 59 years old and above, as of 1st January 2023, and are still holding eligible bonds, have been included as part of the eligible holders who are being invited to tender their holding of the eligible bonds in exchange for a package of new tranches. We find this as irregular. We believe that the inclusion of Category B holders, that is pensioners, in the invitation is irregular for the following reasons. Category B holders, that's the pensioners, who did not tender their bonds were on the 16th February 2023 exempted from the DDEP. Effectively, natural persons 59 years old and above, as of 1st January 2023, who did not tender their bonds and were subsequently exempted from the DDEP are not part of persons who could not participate in the DDEP. Such persons, therefore, cannot be part of an invitation to give holders who could not participate in the DDEP an opportunity to tender. Our response to these statements is that natural persons 59 years old or older as of 1st January are not part of holders of eligible bonds who did not participate in the February 2023 exchange on time. They were exempted from the DDEP. They are not part of people who could not participate on time. We were exempted. We have advised that the government should not create a situation that will result in pensioners not receiving their coupons and principals on due dates.
According to Dr. Edwana Nientri, they have sent a reminder letter to the Ministry of Finance and government reminding them of the exemption they have granted the pensioner bond holders. He says if they do not hear anything from government in the coming days or are not exempted, they will have no option than to resume their picketing.
We have already informed the whole world that anytime our coupon or principal is in arrears, the only thing we will do is to picket the ministry, as we have done. We will do that if the ministry delays in paying our coupons and principals when the principal is due to be paid. So that is what we are going to do. We have done it and we'll continue to do it. We don't want to go back to the picketing, and that is why we don't want government to bring any system that will get these coupons and principals delayed. But if a system is created to delay the principal or the coupons, then we will picket the ministry to demand our payment.
Meanwhile, the pensioner bond holders are hopeful that the government will honor its words in the letter of exemption granted the pensioner bond holders. Reporting for Joy News from the Clocksack Auditorium here in Accra, my name is James Aveji.
So, excerpts of what transpired earlier today. So, let's give you a breakdown of this new trend or reopening of the domestic debt exchange program. Joining us now is Isaac Ovieje, data analyst here at Joy News. And Kofi, many are wondering, is this a second round, a third round, a reopening? What's the classification from the position of government?
First, I think we should go with the description given by the Finance Ministry themselves. This is a reopening of the domestic debt exchange program. But per our own analysis, this will be the third form of exchange. Remember that this is domestic debt exchange program. Right. The first exchange that was done with a participation rate of 80%, that was when we restructured about 80 billion Ghana cedis of our debt. The second round was when we called groups like, individual bondholders, groups like pension funds, cocoa bills, and also foreigners who had come to invest in our economy to come for, and then even IPPs, for instance, you remember that story. That was the second round. That was the second exchange. The third exchange now will be what the Finance Ministry is referring to as the reopening. But I would like to quote something from the IMF. They say that when you are doing a debt restructuring, remember that it comes with repercussions. So if you do it and it is not deep, you will keep on doing it over and over and over again. And the intended effects that you wanted to get, you probably will not get if you do the debt restructuring and you don't do it well. Now, per the data that we have, if you've been looking at this domestic debt exchange from the time that the finance minister did the maiden announcement, The total amount that we wanted to restructure was about 137 billion Ghana cedis.
But that figure, I recall, was revised.
Revised
yes.
3 times. The fourth revision or the third revision that we worked with was 97.7 billion Ghana cedis.
So we brought it down.
Exactly. The difference between the difference between 137 and 97 billion cedis is almost around over 30 billion Ghana cedis that we are talking about. We don't know the people that were excluded. Remember, the finance minister in their final press statement said that, you know, some people were excluded because they felt they cannot be included in the debt restructuring.
I see.
Others who were holding bonds were allowed to exchange their bonds for treasury bills. Remember, all of those things happened when we were just tackling the 97 billion cedis. And so just by doing this and just by letting these people exclude themselves, we created that huge gap of more than 30 billion cedis. And now we have to...
So inadvertently or intentionally, government is just coming back to the same point where we left off. Let's hear from Professor Lord Mensa, who's also joining the conversation this afternoon. Prof, thank you for your time. Reopening of the domestic debt exchange, some are calling it the third round of exchange. How do you see it? And it appears that Professor Lord Mensa will be joining us shortly to also share his thoughts with us. But we're coming back to this whole figure that we are looking at, 100 billion plus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How much more do we need to meet the targets?
We need a lot. We need a lot. And per the information that we have, we know, you know what happened in Zambia, where, you know, the external creditors were not happy with the position that the government has taken in the domestic sector.
Yeah.
Zambia, when they were doing their debt restructuring, went straight to the external creditors and say, come on, can you give us a haircut and all of those things? They did not tackle their domestic debt restructuring properly. So, the external creditors were not happy because they say, if you want us to help you restructure your debt, why don't you start from the domestic space? The same thing probably happened in Ghana.
Yeah.
You know, you are going to restructure, external debt restructuring, which has about 13 billion euro bonds.
Why don't you start?
Exactly. Euro bonds are mostly pension funds that people gather, you know, to give you bonds and all of those things. So if you did a restructuring and if you want this magnitude of haircut from us who are the external people, then we feel that you need to go back to the domestic space and cut more.
Okay. Let's see. Professor Lord Mensa is back with us. Prof, I was just asking the question about how you feel about this latest reopening of the domestic debt exchange program.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Good afternoon to our viewers. You know, the debt restructuring and the way we are operationalizing it in this country, I think is unprecedented. Because we've read through, debt restructuring across the globe, and I haven't seen any debt restructuring that has gone back and forth, and that seemed to extend certain levels of uncertainty, you know, on the investment space in the country. That is, unprecedented. Now, from where I sit, debt exchange comes with economic repercussions, in as much as it has a way of reducing, you know, debt burdens on the government's, you know, balance sheet. There are some, you know, negative side to it. And so therefore, if a country is going through debt restructuring, it does not hang on it for long. That is why your calculations and everything that you are looking out for must be spot on in such a way that when you make that announcement, you don't go back and say, you know, you are coming to do debt restructuring again. From the way things are going, it looks like we are using, you know, the debt exchange as more or less operations, kind of economic management. And that is not done anywhere. Once you announce a debt restructuring, you're done with it once and for all, and then off you go. So for the finance minister to reopen it, more or less a recurrent kind of, you know, debt restructuring, it will have a negative impact on our economy. And it looks like he's having his way because the investor community seem not to have alternatives for their investment. If they have an alternative for their investment, they would have punished, you know, the government in raising, funds. That is why it has been more or less kind of negotiations back and forth. So from where I sit, the finance minister shouldn't take advantage of the situation. And then because, if you turn out to, prolong the debt restructuring and the investor loses interest in government instrument and they turn out to, sit on their monies at homes, or they turn out to find alternative use for the money, the government will find itself in trouble. Ability to raise money will be a problem. So from where I sit, they shouldn't look at it that way. What was announced has been dealt with. The Ghanaians, knows very well that they are done with debt restructuring, and as a result of that, we're not coming back to it anymore. And that should be able to help the economy. Because as we speak now, the back and forth seem to prolong the kind of uncertainty. Nobody knows whether the government will touch, the next time. So anybody that is sending his money into, government instrument tend to have, hesitation. And so the finance minister should be aware of this and then stop the back and forth.
And joining us now also is Dr. Edu Anani, who's just addressed the press briefing this afternoon. Dr. Anani, yes, I can understand this is a very busy moment for you, but going forward, are you certain that you would have another opportunity to engage government on this, knowing that the position is now officially communicated to the public? Dr. Anani, I was just asking if your way forward will be to engage the finance ministry again.
Yeah, we have sent a letter to the finance minister. We are of the view that they didn't avert their minds to the fact that we have been exempted, and therefore you couldn't invite us to any reopening activity. And I believe they will understand that, and yes, because announced that we are not part of that invitation. We are not going to submit our bonds anyway, but the implication is that if you are part of this reopening, until the reopening period is closed and a settlement date is determined for settlement, you are not going to get whatever is due you during the offer period. That is the trouble that will cause us if our name is still in the document. For tendering, we are not tendering. We are exempted, and nobody is saying you want to tender the bonds. But if your name is still inside, the meaning is that you can't receive your coupons that are due now. You can't receive your principals that are due now until the offer period is ended and settlement day has come. So if it takes now, government is saying the offer period is up to 22nd and settlement date is 29th. And the government has said it may extend the offer period. And I believe it is going to be done. The previous one were extended sometimes 3-4 times. So these will be extended. If it's extended for, let's say, about 2 months or 1 month, it means coupons that are due today and principal that is due today will not be paid until the 2 months when the opening has closed and settlement has come before you receive your money. And we can't go through that. We won't allow that to happen. So what we are saying that, just take us out of it. If you didn't apply your minds to the fact, I have said it several times that this self-exemption and issue exemption is not taught in class. It's not in the textbooks. It's practical. You must understand the implication of when you say you have exempted someone. And if you still don't have that real understanding, you keep on doing these things. And we are just explaining to you that once we have been exempted, you can't invite us to, unless you lift the exemption, unless you say you are no longer exempted, so now you can come. But once you are under exemption, you have no right to access to come and tender. If you access, we won't tender. And if our name is still there, we will have problems getting our coupons that are due now and our maturity bonds that are due now until settlement day, which will not renew which will be the right thing that we should
Okay.
face. So that is why we are holding this press conference and writing this protest.
We've seen, the trauma and the tireless effort and the back and forth with the finance ministry when you were asking for the first exemption. Are you ready to go the full length, the full haul, just to get, another issue out of the way, which has got to do with the reopening of the DDEP?
Yes, we are saying that the reopening, we don't have a problem. Government can reopen and invite people who are supposed to be invited. We are saying, period, that we are not part of the group that you can invite. Simple. Once exempted, you can't invite us. You can't invite us, so we should not be part. So don't use the reopening to delay payments. You put it in the reopening, you are just using it to delay payments to us. Now, I've explained that in the market, when the offer is open, it's not closed, you can't determine people who are bringing in their bonds and people who are not bringing in their bonds. You must wait until the offer period is ended and settlement day has come before you will know people who submitted their bonds or tendered their bonds and people who did not.
All right.
That is where you can now pay people who did not tender their bonds. So if you put our names there, you are going to tell us to wait. And if this offer period or whatever is the opening takes 2 months, it means pensioners are going to wait 2 months before they get what is due them. This is what we say it's not right. So don't put our name inside the document.
Dr. Entry, thank you for spending some time with us. Professor Lot Mensah, the way forward, what do you think about the proposition?
I think it's not a good thing. I mean, as far as the Ghanaian economy is concerned, it has more or less extended the uncertainty, in the space of government investment. And if we don't take care, the long-term effect of government raising money to operationalize its budget, will turn up to be a problem. So the way forward, I think they should desist from this, recurrent, debt exchange announcement.
Okay, and any message for the finance ministry?
Yeah, from where I sit, I think debt exchange is done once and for all, and it's not something that you can, operationalize it every now and then and say you are going for another debt restructuring. From where I sit, I think they should, come out and be clear. When we're going to end this debt exchange and what we intend to accumulate, what we intend to achieve from that. So far, we had objective for going into this exercise. We've not even gotten, the part of the objectives achieved yet. We're talking about, bringing interest rate down in the short term. You see short-term interest rate, going up, but we're still having this uncertainty clouding out. That is why government instrument keeps on attracting higher rate because of some of these uncertainties. And so it's not something that we should joke with.
We'll see how all of that will play out. Professor Lot Mensah, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Isaac, the options left for government as we go on this short break.
Well, probably the only option is that individual bondholders and pension, bondholders want their monies. And as we speak from, fact sheets, I can say that today, as we speak, 114.9 million worth of bonds will be maturing today. 62 million on 25th, 284.9 million on 28th. So as we speak, September alone is housing close to 463 million Ghana cedis of bonds that will mature just this month. And people want their monies to be paid. And just like they said, debt restructuring is done once and for all. The IMF says it's like performing a surgery. You don't perform a surgery and say, oh, I forgot this in it, so let me cut and go and take it back. You do it once and for all. And once you do it and don't get the effect, that is it.
Some say maybe when you leave a razor in there, you go back for it.
That is why when you are doing it,
you need to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Critical point there. Isaac Ofiaje, thank you for joining us. You're watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. When we get back, we're still paying attention to the Electoral Commission's press briefing, which will be coming up shortly. Plus, The United Nations General Assembly is underway in New York. Will get you there, get you updates, and why it matters to you here in Africa. Please stay. And you're welcome back. Let's cross over now to New York, because world leaders are being urged to recommit to the acceleration of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which will recede in the next 7 years. The Agenda 2030 of leaving no one behind and tackling world poverty veered, of course, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is emerging now, the 78th General Assembly, that the world would have to research and to move towards attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. Earlier today, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, urged world leaders to join efforts at tackling world poverty and to ensuring that the SDGs are accelerated.
You made a solemn promise, a promise to build a world of health, progress and opportunity for all, a promise to leave no one behind, and a promise to pay for it. This was not a promise made to one another as diplomats from the comfort of this chamber. It was always a promise to people. People crushed under the grinding wheels of poverty. People starving in a world of plenty. Children denied a seat in a classroom. Families fleeing conflict, seeking a better life. Parents watching helplessly as their children die of preventable disease. People losing hope because they can't find a job or a safety net when they need it. Entire communities literally on devastation's doorstep because of changing climate. So the SDGs aren't just a list of goals. They carry the hopes, dreams, rights and expectations of people everywhere. And they provide the surest path to living up to our obligations under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, now in its 75th year.
Well, Wani Kenny is a journalist working in South Sudan. He's at this year's United Nations General Assembly, joining us from New York now. Thank you for spending some time with us here on the Joy News channel in Ghana. The UN Secretary General saying there that the world actually risks leaving the SDGs behind. What for you is informing this statement, and listening to the debate so far, why is it so necessary that the world refocuses on the SDGs? Wani, we seem to be having a challenge hearing you. If you could just unmute for me there so we can hear the points you're making here on the Joy News channel. The question about, the SDGs and why the UN Secretary General is so passionate about, the world coming together and to, push forward when it comes to attaining the SDGs. Why do you feel, he's so passionate about the SDGs this time round?
Thank you. In a world marked by historic events, the war in Ukraine, the conflict in Sudan, the effect of climate change all around the world are a cause of concern. And instead of achieving the goals, it's like the SDGs have hit a reverse gear, and hence the statement from the UN Secretary General.
And lots of statements are being made so far. What else has been dominating, the discussions in New York where you are?
Well, issues to do with climate change is topping the discussions, especially after the disasters we see around the world, the recent one in Morocco and many other countries. It's top of the agenda, but also not forgetting the conflicts that are ongoing currently in most of these countries, in many of these countries around the world, and they are kind of a cause of concern because without settling all these, it is difficult to attain the Sustainable Development Goals.
And in fact, feeding that into the UN SDGs, we'll be talking about your story shortly and what's happening in South Sudan. But is there any indication at all that we're just 7 years away from the UN SDGs attaining it? Does it look like these world leaders would want to shift the timelines again, revise the Agenda 2030, and perhaps look at another time in the future? What indications are you getting looking at the debates at the General Assembly?
Looking at the debate, it seems that is a possibility, because the 50% of the sustainable development goals have not even been achieved. Now, how else will you make the world a better place? It means either timelines have to shift or new policies have to be put in place in order to tackle some of these issues. And of course, you see the rise in the conflicts today, and of course, the effects of climate change is really topping the agenda. And this cannot be achieved overnight. It has to, some timelines really have to shift. And according to the discussions that are going on currently, it means something at least would happen in terms of the change in the timeline.
And let's talk about South Sudan, where you find yourself. You find yourself closer to Sudan, which is also having its own unique challenges in terms of conflict, and we all know what the story is. As a journalist and, monitoring the discussions going on, what would you say is that surest bet to tackling all of these emerging conflicts and looking at that into, the political situation across many countries on the African continent? Why is it so important that we take the SDGs seriously and to tackle, the issues confronting our continent?
The SDGs are key to kind of stabilizing countries. And of course, when one is missing, it means it will lead to escalating conflicts in some of these countries. And of course, we've seen that with the Sudan, the rise in economic situation. The economic situation is not really good. And all these are contributing factors to the conflicts that we're seeing. So the SDGs are really key because when they are attained, the stability of the countries are all dependent on it. So looking at what is happening in Sudan, and of course it destabilizes the entire region. Whenever there is a pain, like like the human body, whenever there is a pain in one of the areas, it means the whole body experiences it. So working towards achieving the sustainable goals will really go a long way in stabilizing the entire region, not just Sudan or South Sudan.
The high-level week is just beginning in New York. Do we know some of the activities we should be expecting in the coming days?
Oh yes, lots of activities are ongoing. The summit on climate action is ongoing, and of course, we're still going to listen to the debate from the various heads of states, and most of the heads of states are also arriving. Just some few minutes ago, we've seen the Nigerian president also arriving, and of course, the South Sudanese president is almost. We are waiting for him in a few minutes. He will be also inside. So a lot of discussions will be ongoing, and of course, we have countries that are in conflict with each other. They also have events where they could sit down for some discussions, private discussions, at least to try and iron out some of the issues.
And we'll definitely be watching the space, and we'll keep connecting with you for more updates from New York. Wani Isaac Kenyi, who is with the Insider from South Sudan, joining us from New York. I'm grateful for your time. For staying with us here on the Joy News channel, we'll cross you over now to the headquarters of the Electoral Commission and the chairperson of the Commission, Jean Mentor, addressing the press now. We can listen in.
We'd like to thank all of you and to welcome you to this edition of the Let the Citizen Know. We thank God for making it possible to meet under this platform to brief the citizenry about the ongoing voters registration exercise for 2023. Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution confers on every Ghanaian who is 18 years and above and of sound mind the right to register to vote. Similarly, Article 45 of the Constitution clothes the Electoral Commission with the mandate and responsibility of compiling the register of voters at such periods as may be determined by law. It is in the exercise of this mandate, therefore, that we commenced the 2023 voters registration exercise on Tuesday, the 12th of September 2023. I'm happy to note that in spite of a few hiccups experienced in the first 2 days, the exercise is proceeding well to the glory of God. As you may know, we experienced in the first 2 days temporary breaks in the registration exercise, due mainly to a number of issues ranging from disruptions to our internet supply, to power outages, rainfall, and in a few instances, faulty kits. As a commission, we quickly moved to resolve these issues to ensure an unhindered, smooth, and seamless process. I'm happy to note that the registration exercise is proceeding well. A key policy established to guide this registration exercise was the use of the online method of registration. By this, I mean that the system is connected directly to the database. As such, right from the point of registration, it is possible to detect whether or not a person had previously registered. Once the applicant places his or her fingers on the fingerprint scanner, the system is able to establish whether that person already exists in the database or not. One other advantage of the online system is that a person's details are immediately captured in the database in the event where the applicant has not previously registered. This is different from the offline, in that the offline registration, one is not able to immediately detect if a person is already in the database. It is offline, and it is not connected to the server or the database. The registration details of applicants are captured onto a pen drive and exported at the end of the day to the database. It is after the export that the server, through a process called deduplication, identifies individuals who have multiple registrations. In summary, the system flags them out. Ladies and gentlemen, from the above explanation, it is obvious that the online method of registration is more beneficial than the offline method. The online mode, however, requires consistent, uninterrupted internet supply. Recognizing this, we worked closely with our partners, the MTN, to put in place structures to make this feasible. In almost all our district offices, we run 2 platforms to provide internet service: the leased lines as well as turbonets. The plan was that when the leased lines failed, service from the turbonet would immediately kick in. In spite of these arrangements, however, we still experienced interruptions to internet connectivity over the first 2 days. This led us to revise our policy to allow for the use of both online and offline methods of registration. I'm happy to note that since the revision of this policy, the process of registration has been seamless and unhindered. And I give you an example. On day 1, that is Tuesday, the 12th of September 2023, relying solely on the online mode of registration, we captured just 12,467 registrants throughout the country. However, with a swift policy change, which now allows the use of both online and offline methods of registration, we have seen an increase in the numbers of registered voters. So on Saturday, the 16th, and Sunday, the 17th of September 2023, we recorded a turnout of 42,266 and 42,776 respectively. We are hopeful that with the use of both methods, we would witness a seamless and unhindered registration exercise throughout the country. Another issue that we experienced in the first few days was that of large crowds and long queues at the registration centers. Again, we went back to the drawing board to identify these centers. We immediately increased the number of registration stations from 2 to 3, and in some cases 4. Faulty kits were also swiftly replaced with spares that were available in the region. And so, for instance, in the Tamale Metro office, we experienced issues with the kits sent there, resulting in a registration figure of 4 voters only on day 1. We quickly stepped in and replaced the faulty kits, and the registration is going on there seamlessly. Additionally, to do with the long queues in the Tamale metropolis, we have increased their registration stations from 2 to 4. And I'm happy to note that on Saturday, they recorded a high of 269 registrations and 410 on Sunday, the 17th of September. I share these examples to demonstrate that as a commission, we are on the ground and working around the clock to ensure that every eligible voter who is eligible to register or who is desirous to register as a voter does so with ease. We have heard of allegations from various quarters that the commission is disenfranchising eligible voters. This is false. It is not in our interest as a commission to disenfranchise any eligible voter. In fact, we take pride in the fact that we have the second highest number of registered voters in the whole of Africa, with the exception of Cape Verde, which has a national population of just about 600,000 and a voting population of 55.33%. Per the 2021 census figures, Ghana boasts of a register that captures 55% of the national population. That is 17,027,000 persons out of a national population of 31 million. As a commission, we pride ourselves that our voter registration population meets international best practice for the registration of voters. Ladies and gentlemen, we are well aware that the Commission's policy to use its 268 district offices as registration centers has attracted criticism from some sections of the society. As you may be aware, the Commission conducted a full-blown registration exercise in some 33,000 plus polling stations throughout the country in 2020. It is important to note that the current exercise is an update of the register. It is to allow persons who have attained the age of 18 years and above since 2020, and others who had not previously registered, the opportunity to register to vote. It is not a full-blown registration. It is important to note that this will not be the only registration exercise before the 2024 election. In line with our plans to promote an inclusive participatory registration process, we plan to institute continuous registration in all our district offices nationwide in 2020 for a considerable length of time. In addition to that, we will identify difficult to access areas and undertake a mop-up registration of voters in those areas. Of course, we will rely on data from the Ghana Statistical Service and our own database to determine areas where the registration figures are low as a result of inaccessibility to our district offices. And I'd like to repeat this, that this is not the only registration exercise prior to the elections in 2024. In line with our plan to promote an inclusive participatory registration process, we plan to institute registration in all our offices nationwide in 2024 for a considerable length of time. In addition to that, we will identify difficult to access areas and undertake a mop-up registration of voters in those areas. We wish to assure the good people of Ghana that we have their best interests at heart. we do not, and I repeat, we do not intend to disenfranchise eligible voters. It is in our interest to register them all. However, our present circumstances makes it impossible to conduct registration on electoral area basis. As you are all aware, the Commission prepared a draft CI for continuous registration in all district offices nationwide. This initiative started last year, and the registration we were envisaging under the draft CI was for a sustained long-term basis. Indeed, had the CI passed, we would have had some 6 months this year to register voters at any time of their choice. And I'd like to repeat it, that had the CI passed, we would have had some 6 months to register voters at any time of their choice in our district offices throughout the country. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, our 2023 budget and work plan were prepared along those lines. Our 2023 work plan and budget was based on a continuous registration of voters in our district offices nationwide. We did not factor electoral area registration in our 2023 work plan and budget. Hence, our adoption of this method in line with our budget and our work plan, as well as our long-term plan and vision. You are all aware that our budget and work plan is approved by Parliament. We discuss our budget and work plan and we are mandated by law to discuss our budget and work plan with the Special Budget Committee of Parliament before its approval. So our budget and the work plan we are operating currently is well known to Parliament. As mentioned, our plan for 2024 is to undertake a mop-up exercise in the difficult-to-access areas after our continuous registration exercise in all our district offices throughout the country. As such, those who are unable to register in this ongoing exercise will have the opportunity to do so next year. As we noted in our previous engagement, the Statistical Service projects that 450,000 persons turn 18 years every year. This sums up to 1,350,000 eligible voters for the period 2021, 2022, and 2023. This projection by the Statistical Service has aided our planning and our procurement. For the purpose of this registration, however, we are targeting roughly 700,000 voters. That is 52% of the registrable population, bearing in mind that not all who attain the age of 18 years will participate in this exercise. We are confident that with the long-term continuous registration in all our district offices, coupled with a limited mop-up exercise in difficult-to-reach areas in 2024, we will have all eligible voters who are desirous to register as voters on board ahead of the 2024 general election. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are doing everything in our power to capture every eligible voters, we are doing everything in our power to ensure that ineligible voters do not get onto our register. We are reliably informed about attempts by some persons to get minors on the register. And we encourage the citizens who observe these illegal practices to challenge them. We have a recourse in the law that allows citizens who qualify to vote, who qualify to register as voters, to challenge anyone who in their view is a minor or a foreigner. Additionally, we have charged our district electoral officers who are serving as registration officers to challenge the registration of these minors and foreigners. We expect that with their effective supervision and leadership, there will be no minors or foreigners on our electoral roll. We have received reports of the arrest of the youth organizer of one of the political parties in the Shai Osudoku constituency. It is alleged that he was facilitating the registration of minors. We are also aware of other cases of attempts by other persons who should know better to register minors. It is for this very reason that we felt it necessary to limit the documentation for identifying a person's citizenship and age to the Ghana card. Indeed, our experience with the 2020 registration exercise revealed attempts by minors and foreigners to illegally get on our roll. And it took a great deal of time, effort, and money to expunge them from our register. In all, we succeeded in deleting the details of 15,000 persons from our register. Our proposal to use the Ghana card as the sole document for identification for registration purposes is simply to guarantee and protect the integrity and credibility of the register. It is not to disenfranchise any eligible voter, as is being alleged. The current attempts by sections of society to register minors strongly supports our proposal for the use of the Ghana card as the only document to verify and attest to a person's citizenship and age. Similarly, what we see gives credence to why our proposal was resisted. We use this opportunity to caution guarantors to refrain from guaranteeing for minors and non-citizens. In the past, they got away with it. This time, we intend to compile a list of defaulting guarantors and bring them up for prosecution. On a personal note, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen a video circulating in which the author states that as Executive Director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, the IEA, I called on the Electoral Commission to expand the registration centers during the 2016 voters registration exercise ahead of the 2016 presidential and parliamentary elections. I categorically state that I said so, but I did so in a constructive manner, devoid of attacks, insults, and falsehood. We will recall that in the lead up to the 2016 election, the Commission at the time undertook voter registration in its district offices throughout the country. This was conducted in a year of a general election, that is a presidential and parliamentary election. And now the difference here is this. The current exercise being conducted in the 268 district offices is not being undertaken in a year of a general election. Hence my call to the Electoral Commission in 2016 to expand the scope of the registration. That is not to say that the district level election is not important. It is. However, as mentioned, our budget and work plan for 2023, which Parliament approved, was based on a long-term continuous registration and not registration on electoral area basis. I place on record that our plan for 2024 is not the same and will not be the same as what is being carried out today. Neither will it be the same as what happened in 2016. I'd like to take this again. I mentioned that the 2023 DLEs are important to us. Indeed, they are important elections indeed. However, as mentioned earlier, our budget and work plan for 2023, which Parliament approved, was based on a long-term continuous registration and not registration on electoral area basis. I place on record that in 2024, our plan will not be the same as what is being undertaken today. Neither will it be the same as what occurred in 2016. in the lead up to the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections, we will roll out a continuous registration of voters for several months in the district offices. Additionally, we will undertake a mop-up exercise in selected electoral areas, particularly in areas that have difficulty in accessing our district offices. And so you see that the registration exercise planned for 2024 is different, or will be different, from what was conducted in 2016. What is baffling is that the very same people who are accusing us of trying to disenfranchise eligible voters were silent in 2016 when the Commission instituted registration in the district offices ahead of the presidential and parliamentary election. I take this opportunity to urge the good citizens of Ghana not to believe everything they hear. The allegations being made against us, including accusations of our working to disenfranchise eligible voters, to sending faulty kits to the stronghold of a specific political party, are false. A number of districts reported having faulty kits on the first 2 days. These kits were not located only in the stronghold of a political party, of a particular political party, and the evidence is there for all to verify. The only region that did not report any faulty kits is the Savannah region. All other regions had faulty kits which were swiftly replaced. As mentioned earlier, the faulty kits in the Tamale metropolis were replaced immediately to enable a smooth registration of voters. As a result of the backlog from the first day, and based on my discussions with the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, we set up 2 additional registration centers to cater for the teeming crowds. In all, the Tamale Metro office has 4 registration stations, and this has helped to ease up the long queues and traffic. As a commission, we remain open to constructive dialogue and call on our stakeholders, particularly the leadership of political parties, to engage with us to ensure a successful exercise. I wish to emphasize that in 2024, once again, the Commission will undertake a continuous registration in all districts for a sustained period. And we are looking at some 5 to 6 months of continuous registration. Additionally, a mop-up exercise will be held in selected areas where it is difficult to access our offices. As a Commission, we remain committed to ensuring that every eligible voter who is desirous to get on our roll can do so without hindrance, and we will work within our mandate to ensure that this happens. I'll now turn my attention, ladies and gentlemen, to the statistics of the voters' registration exercise so far. At the end of 6 days, we have recorded a total of 182,831 registered voters, and I'd like to provide the breakdown. So I think I'll start with Western Region. Out of the 182,831 registered voters as at day 6, Western Region recorded 11,644, representing 6.4% of the total registered to date. Western North registered 6,491, representing 3.6% of the total registered to date. Central Region has registered 17,590, representing 9.6%. Greater Accra Region has registered 27,264, representing 14.9%. Volta region has registered 12,681, representing 6.9%. OT region has registered 4,427, registering 2.4%. Eastern region has registered 19,327, representing 10.6%. Ashanti region has registered 29,255, registering 16%. Bono region has registered 6,580, representing 3.6%. Ahafo region has registered 4,519, registering 2.5%. Bono East has registered 7,291, registering 4.0%. Savannah region has registered 4,655, representing 2.5%. Northern region has registered 12,982, registering 7.1%. Northeast has registered 4,244, representing 2.3%. Upper East has registered 8,639, representing 4.7%. Upper West has registered 5,241, representing 2.9%. And it gives us a national total of 182,831. Interestingly, we see a pattern of more males registering than females. And so at the end of day 6, 53.9% of males had registered as against 46.1% females. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. And the Commission is ready and available to take any questions that you may have. We look forward to briefing you in the coming days and to providing, I think, the infographics of the various, depicting the data across the regions would be shared on our WhatsApp platform and our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and on our website to enable the citizens follow through. And we'll be coming back to you periodically, on this platform to provide you updates of how things are proceeding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam. You agree with me, the update has been very detailed, comprehensive. I think Madam deserves another round of applause. It's the time for the questions. So we're going to have 2 rounds of questions. Please move this way. Move this way, not pass here. So we take it here. 2 rounds of questions. The first round, take a number, and then move to the second. And that'll be over the day. So we'll start with you. You identify yourself and your question.
Thank you very much. My name is William Gate. I report for PISA. You did indicate in your presentation that the current budget you are working with now is not the same as what was approved for you for 2004 registration.
No such thing. No such thing.
2024 elections.
No such thing. But go on.
Okay. My question is that many have accused you of operating under financial constraints. Will you agree to that accusations or that saying?
Is that an accusation?
Assertion.
Okay. My name is Ibu Asante. I work in Joy. So, Madam, I have this story from my job online and graphic online. And I quote, this is Madam Jimenez speaking. Yesterday, we were served with an application for interlocutory injunction seeking to restrain the Commission from supervising the conduct. Gentlemen, in order that we are not cited for contempt, the Commission has taken the decision not to supervise the conduct of the presidential and parliamentary elections until the determination of the case by court. This is on the NDC practice. An 18-year-old called Aita Precious sued the Electoral Commission and applied for an integrity injunction. There's an affidavit of service, and the bailiff, Ahmed Ansa, confirmed that she served the Commission on the 8th, and that it was received by the head of legal here, one Mr. Daniel. The EC still proceeded to start the registration exercise despite the pendency of this application. How do you speak?
My name is Kobe Kindaso. I report for G1 Television. Right, so a visit to your former headquarters showed that about 4 or 5 constituencies have been clustered there. And the place is true. Where? Your former headquarters. 4 or 5 constituencies, namely Aso, West, Wagona, Aso, East, North, Central, and then Kote itself. The registration is supposed to be held at district offices of various constituencies. How will you explain this classroom? And then secondly, we realize that at that very center, no arrangement is made for persons with disability. What arrangements have been made for persons with disability with this exercise? Thank you.
Okay, you ask one question at a time for the person.
My name is Hansen Agaman. I work with CTFM CTTV. So it appears the Commission is happy with the work it's done so far. Former President John Mahama on Friday visited the headquarters. He, to a large extent, again acknowledged the huge numbers. But he says it goes to the point that when you limit the verification for registration to the Ghana card, then you won't get these numbers. And so if the Commission in 8 days needs a reason to move away from the idea of using the Ghana card as a sole document for registration, this limited voter registration should be the evidence to the EC.
Let's take the last one on this round.
My name is Eric. I work with TV3. I'll just add a bit more to Kwekwa Santa's question about the interlocutory injunction. The council says that contempt application was served on the EC's lawyers on Friday as well, seeking to halt the ongoing registration process. And so how does the EC respond to that? That's just an add-on. And you've raised an important point as to why all of the things that we've seen, particularly with registering of minors, gives credence to the Electoral Commission's quest to use the Ghana card as a sole identifier. The National Identification Authority for some time has been making the case and making it quite strongly that its database is ready for the Electoral Commission to latch onto. If the Ghana card is the prerequisite to eliminating all of these, what is preventing the Electoral Commission from using the database? We spoke to Professor Atifa, who's repeated the same narrative again.
Thank you very much for your questions, and I think I'll start with the last gentleman who asked why we are not using the database from the NIA. And I think it's very simple. The database is not done, the registration for the national identification card was not done on polling station basis. I think we all know that anywhere you found yourself in the country, you could register for the Ghana card. However, the EC voter card is done on polling station basis. It drills down to a person's polling station. And so it enables the commission to know the number of registrants in each polling station and plan adequately for them. You are well aware that at the point of voting, we have what we call the biometric verification devices, and we feed in every person's details from that particular polling station in the kits. And so when you come to vote, your biometrics are verified. Your fingerprints and your face is verified. We are not able to do this with the Ghana card because, as I mentioned, the Ghana card is not done on polling station basis, which is unfortunate because I believe in the planning of these things, we should have been able to jaw and come to that discussion that let us do the Ghana card on polling station basis. So unfortunately, that has not been done. And if I found myself in the northern region visiting a family member, I could get a Ghana card there. It's not tied to polling stations. So the EC is unable to use the Ghana card for registration purposes because it does not allow us to plan. It does not allow you to be able to know who is in this polling station, to put their biometric details on the verification device, and also to provide materials to cover that registration. And that is what it is. And it is, again, a lack of planning. If that had been done, then we could have had a very seamless process, and it would have been easy to use the Ghana card for registration purposes. I think you talked about service on the commission on the 8th of September, Friday the 8th of September. To the best of my knowledge, we do not have anybody in our legal department called Daniel. Neither is the head of our legal called Daniel. There is no person called Daniel in our legal department. And as we speak, the commission did not become privy to that documentation or that service, that writ, until Wednesday, because on Monday the commission was on the field, and on Tuesday we were on the field, and it was only Wednesday after the exercise that we became privy to that service. So I'm sorry to say that per the record of this bailiff, there's no person called Daniel in our legal department. Neither is the head of our legal department called Daniel, unless I don't know that he has another name, another first name. But I know him as Emmanuel. I don't know. Do you have another name? And so we've known for a long time that we had registration. Why wait till a day before the exercise to serve on a Friday when there's a lot of field activity going on? And as a commission, when documentation is brought in, it goes through steps, a recording process. And so sometimes it does not end up on the desk of commissioners for some 2-3 days. And so we'd like to state that it was after the start of the registration that we became privy to the injunction that had been served upon us. Again, I think you talked about the old office, and as you know, it was a complex that we occupied as the head office until recently. And when we moved, we felt it prudent in our bid to save some money for the taxpayer to provide office space for, I think, 5 of our district offices who were perching in places that were not convenient and comfortable. And so rather than go and rent spaces for them to occupy, we thought it wise, because we have that big, huge edifice there, to provide them with accommodation in those offices. And those are districts in the Greater Accra region. And so that was the rationale. It's not just to cluster it. And it was not done for the registration. It's a huge edifice with 3 big structures. And rather than have them sit and go waste, we thought that it was better to have some of our district offices which had difficulties with accommodation and were perching in most cases, to occupy these with ease. It is well known that when you have registration, the first few days you have traffic. This is not uncommon. And I recall that even in 2020, when we had registration on the polling station basis, you have traffic. The whole idea is to build efficiency into your process. And so realizing that the exercise was highly participatory, we increased the number of registration stations in most of the places. Indeed, we've had consistent engagement with our officers on the field, and they come back to us, they say, we have a lot of traffic here, we have long queues here, and so we immediately give approval for new registration stations to be added on. And so that's how we do it. But having traffic is not an issue. This is what it should be, but we should be efficient to provide registration stations to manage the queues, to ensure the swift, the swift conduct of the registration, and to ensure that people who come through are taken care of swiftly. And so that is what we have done, and we continue to do that. Even as we speak, we get requests from the field about the need for additional registration stations, and approval is being given to that effect. Indeed, as we speak, on a daily basis, registration kits are being sent to the various offices to cater for the additional registration centers. So that is how we intend to answer that. It may be that there may have been traffic because you have 4 or 5, but as I said, we moved in a swift manner to cater for the traffic, to ensure a swift registration of voters. I think you talked about the current budget. As we speak, we are referring to the 2023 budget. We have not presented formally our budget for 2024. And what I indicated is that if you look at our 2023 budget and our work plan, which goes side by side with the budget, we made provision for continuous registration. We did not make provision for registration on an electoral area basis. And so it is impossible for us to go when your budget has been approved by Parliament and your work plan has been approved by Parliament to decide down the line when monies have been earmarked for your activity to go doing electoral area registration. I did mention, young man, my friend from Peace, that we discussed these budgets extensively with Parliament, with the Special Budget Committee of Parliament, and before we get approval for these budgets. And in 2023, that was done. In 2023, that was done.
Centers, persons with disabilities and pregnant women and the elderly, they are not supposed to queue. As soon as they get there, they are supposed to introduce themselves to the registration officials, and they are always attended to. And so far, we haven't received any reports to the contrary that they've not been attended to. Thank you very much.
Okay. Shall we on the issue of the disability?
No, the Ghana.
I'll come to that. I'll come to that.
Our biometric verification kits, if you go to most of the centers, they are downstairs. I hope you get me. So if you are talking about areas where they cannot actually access because they are in higher buildings, most of the registration centers are downstairs, and the physically challenged can access to those areas. Thank you.
I think the Ghana card, I think you raised the question about, the assertion that the use of the guarantor system is what has ensured the long queues in the registration center. So why are we complaining about the long queues then? Because it's good for us, isn't it? If the guarantor system allows everybody to come, then we should not be complaining about long queues. It's good for us. But we hear complaints about long queues. But, really, as a commission, we don't think so. We are mindful of the fact that the National Identification Authority had some budgetary constraints and they were not able to, register. They have not been able to register for a while. But we are also mindful and we are also well aware that over the last 2 weeks, they've kick-started their activities in the districts, and they are registering persons who have turned, I think, 15 years above in the districts. So I do not believe, and so the cards are available. The cards are available. And so if you can come to the commission with a guarantor in a district, you can go visit the commission's district office with a guarantor. so should you be able to visit the NIA district office to get your Ghana card. And I believe that I believe you've all taken note of, some of the newspaper articles, pinpointing to the registration of minors. Is this what we really want as a country? Do we want to have foreigners on our roll? Why can't we go to the United States of America and go and register? And if we cannot, why should we allow foreigners and minors to get onto our roll? And so we need to really be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. In addition to that, Parliament has passed an LI 2111, indicating that in the event of identification for any transaction, the Ghana card should be the document that is used. So why are we not using it? So we don't believe for any reason that the long queues we see in our district office is as a result of the guarantor system being applied. Because if you can go to the district office with a guarantor, 2 guarantors, so should you be able to visit NIA's district office and get your card. Thank you.
Let's have the second round and last round of questions. Yes. My name is Julius. I report from the Rangers. Madam, in your presentation, you repeatedly said this is not going to be a final exercise before 2024. Meanwhile, per your statutes or by the law process establishes, you are supposed to expand the frontiers of the electoral process for people to have access to register. It doesn't matter if it's the general elections or the district assembly elections. But you kept mentioning this is not going to be the last one. Meaning, if you miss this bus, then you can join the other one. Meanwhile, every election is supposed to be as important as the other one. And some also have argued that because you haven't done this registration exercise in 3 years, you have a backlog. So if you had done this in all these 3 years, you could have people who turn 18 over the period register. But you have this backlog, and they are all supposed to congregate at a district police, as a district office, and have this done within 21 days. First thing, so the question is, are you prioritizing the 2024 presidential elections over and above the district elections? Thank you. But to your friend, someone here in TV Africa. As I said, number kind of already register now. What can I say? 182,000 people. So in case, that was not your targets now targeting. It's me actually going to be actually is in the account. It's okay. So let's take this question.
You can meet us in chambers. But I think that we are not targeting and prioritizing the district level elections, the general elections over the district level elections. Far be it. Because the district level election even involves, a considerable amount of effort to come through. And so we are not prioritizing the general election over the district level election. What I mentioned was that the CI that we have before Parliament, we were hoping that we could have a very long-term registration in this year. And we were looking at 5 to 6 months. And we were of the view that that provides enough time. 5 to 6 months. The likelihood of a person visiting their district in the 5 to 6 months is high to transact business. And mind you, the district is the lowest level of governance, and you have the health post there, the NIA there, the education center there. So the likelihood that in the 5 to 6 months, a person would visit the district is high. And so we are hoping that that provides some ease. It is not limited, and a person within that time should find it possible to visit the centers to get registered. And this was the expectation of the Commission. And it was in that spirit that, the budget was prepared, our work plan was prepared. Unfortunately, we were not able to do it. But because of the importance we place on the DLE, we still thought it necessary to quickly, put in place some registration at the district level to enable first-time voters to get on board if they so wish to vote in the DLE. So it is not to say that we prioritize the general elections over the DLEs at all. And then on the question of target, surely we believe that if we are unable to reach our target at the end of the exercise, we will go back to the drawing board. As I have said, we are a hands-on commission. We are on the ground, and we are not sitting far away from the ground. We are there on a daily basis. We are there, we are working on the ground, we receive updates. So if it becomes necessary to extend the days, the Commission would do so to ensure that those who have not been able to get on board would do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this press briefing. Thank you for your patience and your time. We want to take the closing prayer, and we'll ask Mr. Mayor at some point to do that for us.
Thank you. Shall we